Welcome back to the shop. In this episode, we're going to get started on a little bit of what I'd like to call a rustoration on this 19 whatever, 60 whatever Cub Cadet 102. Bought it ran and drive, but it needs some work. So this is part one. We're going to replace the clutch, and then obviously however many subsequent parts we have after that, we'll be finished. Tune in. Thanks. Well, like I said in the intro, got an old Cub 102 here that I bought. I honestly, not 100% sure why I bought it. It was a good deal, I thought, and figuring, the bar tires on the back, I could, throw another set of turfs on it and get it cleaned up and flip it, get my money back, and basically get the bar tires for free, basically put on a pulling tractor. But I got the thing and figured, nothing else, spare parts or something, but it's actually kind of too nice to make a pulling tractor out of. The guy that I got it from was cutting his grass with it up until the year previous. He bought a zero turn. So the deck is in immaculate shape. It works really well. It runs really good. It's a 10 horse and it's got the high-low there, or whatever the hell you want to call it, the creeper gear on it. Which is a good thing because the clutch in it slips so freaking bad that it won't even go in third gear low range. Second gear low range is about as quick as you can go. You put it in second gear high range or even first gear high range and it slips like crazy, which he said he'd put a new clutch in. So I don't 100% know why it's slipping, but I'm thinking that he probably didn't surface the pressure plates or do anything with the pressure plates, and it's probably glazed itself. So hopefully the disc is savable, but also the spring, maybe the spring doesn't have enough pressure on it, but we'll get to that. But that's what today's project is, because as you can see, it's March and it's a winter wonderland out there. So figured pull this in and get started on that. And first thing, take the hood and the grill off. This piece is cast iron. It's heavy, but you can do it by yourself. But there's 4 bolts that go up in the bottom, and then there's, I think, just this one on each side, but this one here might also have to come out. These 2 big bolts on the side. I know that one, I know at least the front one does. I'm not sure about that one. But when I get it off there and I pick the video back up, I'll let you know. And then pull a couple bolts here, and then pop your wires for your headlights and just kind of set that, the regulator and everything back. That way you can just get this out of the way. And then there's PTO stuff down in there. I'll be honest, I've never taken one apart and with any intention of reusing any of that PTO and all that stuff. Usually it's like we're making pulling tractors, so we just and get rid of the stuff. So it'd be kind of a learning experience for me. But basically what we got to do is we got to get all this crap out of the way so we can pull the motor, the 4 bolts in the bottom of the motor, and set him forward enough, and then we'll lock the clutch pedal down and pop the pin out for the front pressure plate, and then that will keep the spring and everything held back. And then we can kind of take it apart and see what we need. I did some pressure plates up in the lathe, surfaced them up, which it's kind of a bear. My chuck is just too small to grab them on the outside, so I put them on a shaft, piece of drive shaft that I have, and I just kind of turn that to make sure that that's straight, and then I can put them in there. But this one here, I didn't have to do that. There was actually like hardly any run out on that one. But anyways, just figured we'd shoot a little video on getting this thing running. I had every intention of getting it cleaned up and getting it, cutting grass and getting rid of it, but I think I'm going to hang on to it. And price of fuel and everything, and then the price of groceries, what they're going to be, we're going to plant one hell of a garden, and I'm not one for manual labor, so we'll get this old guy going, this old girl here, and we'll use her for something around the garden. So I guess let me get this grill off and I'll pick back up and tell you how I did it. So yeah, there's 4 bolts. They're 3/8 bolts. They're 9/16 head. They have nuts on them and everything. And then these 2 big ones come out. They don't go through like small holes in there, but they have to come out in order to slide this forward. I think the front's on this is a 102 So it'd be 102, 122, and I think the 104, 124 stuff is different. I think they actually bolt through on the sides as well. I'm trying to think back. I don't 100% remember, but anyways, you pull those two big bolts out, one there, there's 4 right there, and then this, I'm pretty sure it's not factory Cub Cadet, but this is your belt tensioner right here. You just loosen that off, take your belt off, then your PTO, basically this guy here, you could unscrew it all together if you wanted to, you know, unscrew the turnbuckle probably if you wanted to. I didn't do that. Or you could maybe even pop the lever off back there. Again, I didn't do that. I just basically picked the grill and the hood and everything up, kind of picked it up and twisted it to the side, and your little S-bend comes out of your arm right there, and that all stays in the grill, which is kind of cool. So there's that. The belt there. Make sure that when you go to, you know, slide it forward, you got enough slack in the wires and everything. But now I'm going to pull the 4 bolts. They're 3/8 bolts. There's 4 of them in the bottom. Last 10 horse I did had a completely flat pan, which makes it easy. I know the 12s have a big dip in the pan, so you have to like pick way up on the motor to get it to clear over the axle pivot point there. But the 110 last 1 or 2 10 horses I did, they were flat pans, which was cool, because you just basically pull the 4 bolts and they'll slide right forward. But when we do pulling tractors, I usually put flat pans in them just because it's easier. But that's my next step, and then I should be able to slide everything forward. I might try and pop that pin out right there while it's held. Those pins are kind of a bear. Those roll pins or spiral lock pins, or I had a guy correct me when I called it a roll pin, and he told me it was a spiral lock pin or something. Then he said they were really hard to find. You can get them from McMaster Car that have like 5,000 psi braking strength. So anyways, probably drive that out, pull the 4 bolts, slide everything forward. I might have to undo some linkage for the throttle and the choke, but I'll let you know when I come back. Well, yeah, so that really wasn't too bad. Pulled the 4 bolts out. These 2 are kind of a pain because they're here on top of the axle. You need a 9/16 ratchet wrench, and then you get to the point where you can't get the bolt out and you can't get the wrench off, and you just kind of throw an elbow into the motor and rock it up on its side, and you should be able to get the wrench out, and then you can take it out the last little bit with your fingers. But it's, you know, you just can't get by the axle. And then just slide it forward, and if you've already driven that pin out like I did, then your clutch plates will come right off. And this right here is why I'd say it was slipping, because it's they're junk. So I don't even know, they're so pitted and everything, I don't even know that I could clean those up in the lathe. I'll probably try because it doesn't hurt, but I've got a bunch of extra sets, because that's usually the first thing we do with the pullers is upgrade the clutch. So I have a set right over here ready to go, but that's the surface that was in there, and that right there is what we want to start with. So I'm willing to bet that right there is why the clutch was slipping, because it really doesn't have any purchase area on there. You can see it was just catching just around the outside on the disc. The disc is brand new. It's kind of chewed up, but we'll put it back in there. I might hit it with a little bit of sandpaper and knock the glaze off it, but get a nice flat surface on there so it's actually gripping, and I bet she'll be a whole altogether different animal. So yeah, we'll do that. Clean this shaft up so they slide nice and smooth. The teaser spring is in there and it's not broken. The other spring, everything there looks decent. So we'll tell these things go through hell. You can tell those holes are always kind of slightly elongated, and looks like this shaft had a little bit of a twist onto it. But yeah, and these things here, I don't know that I've ever seen one with those on them, but I guess they're supposed to pull the disc back or something. I dropped one. Here's the other one. So when you go to slide the motor forward, be sure to unclip those from the clutch disc. So yeah, that's why the clutch was slipping. So let me I guess we'll start reassembling it and go from there. So yeah, as you saw in the last clip, the pressure plates were pretty much chiseled that I took off of here, so I got the new ones to put back on. I cleaned the end of this shaft up a little bit with some like to say emery cloth, but it was just sandpaper because I don't have any emery cloth on hand. But so I'm gonna, you know, you got to stick that in there, and then that goes in there like that, and then this goes in there like so. But you got to line the clutch disc up. So if you have an old clutch driver kicking around, which I may use this clutch driver, the pins look a little bit better shaped than those ones. Basically just kind of use this as a clutch alignment tool. It'll just help when you go to put the go to slide the motor back on, and this is not easy to do with two hands or with one hand, so stand by. Yeah, so I just had to use two hands there. I don't have a camera person or anything, so yeah, that gives you your alignment there with your clutch disc. Which when you go to put the motor back in, if it for some reason you didn't have an extra one of these, you could unbolt this one here. It's only 4 quarter 20 bolts, and you could use that to align it, or you can just kind of lock the clutch pedal down like it's actually locked down right now, because that's what's holding the spring and everything back so I'm able to do this. Otherwise, when you go to pop the pin out of the one pressure plate there, it'll fly apart, and it's just not cool. But yeah, anyways, so you can kind of lock that down, and then you can kind of manipulate everything there, but it's just easier if you have it lined up like that from the get-go. And I took a little bit of sandpaper to the brand. This is a brand new clutch disc, but it had some glazing on it, so I took some sandpaper to it and knocked the glaze off, and it's gonna work a gazillion times better. These plates cleaned up really good. I didn't take that much off from them. So I'm gonna put the pin, I'll line this back up with the hole in the drive shaft, put the pin back in, and then we should be good to go. I got to decide if I got to look real close at these pins. I'm going to use the best driver that I have. These pins actually aren't terrible, but it's got a burr on it right here I'll have to clean up. But anyways, let me get that pin back in, and then we'll set the motor back in. So I put my new plates on, and I cleaned up the other disc, as you saw in the previous part of this video, and then noticed that the clutch still slipped like crazy. It wouldn't even back out of the shop. So I figured we got to have bigger issues further in. So I pulled the drive shaft out, which with a creeper gear is actually relatively easier to get to. But upon closer inspection, I found the culprit right there. The spring is broken. So I've got a plethora of springs that we have left over from the pullers. So I'll probably just slap a good used one on there. I mean, probably should put like a new blue spring and a throwout bearing on it, but I'm not gonna. So if you watch another video that I made on my clutch press, I get to use my clutch press. So I'm going to change the spring out, and then we'll put it all back together, and we should have a running driving Cub 102. So it's about 4 or 5 days later since I shot the last little bit of this tractor here. I decided to, since I plan on keeping it and I plan on using it, I decided to upgrade the clutch. I mean, I needed a spring. I had a couple stock springs there, but I went with a blue spring from Kerber. I got a throwout bearing from him, and then this spring doesn't use the roll pin back here, and you have to use something different using his throwout bearing anyways. So that's what these 5/8 collars are for. The drive shaft, I bought a new drive shaft too, because this was the stock one. The camera would focus. They tend to do this, like the spring wears into them. I mean, they're probably not supposed to last, 30, 40 years. So I figured, what the hell, might as well get a new drive shaft. This has got the short drive shaft because it's has a creeper in it. You can see there's the difference in the length. So the drive shaft you get from Kerber, you have to cut it to your length, and then you have to drill your drive hole down here. So I built this fixture for the lathe, actually kind of just for this purpose, and I'm not a machinist, so I honestly don't know. I think this is supposed to be a boring bar holder. I don't know, but it had a stupid drill chuck thing in it, so which your tailstock does the same thing that I think this thing was supposed to do. So I made a shaft and put some bushings inside there, and made it so you can hold your drill, and you can you know, put it wherever you want to. So it was actually basically for just this purpose. So if I wanted to make a drive shaft, I've tried to do them in the drill press, the big Rockwell drill press that I have, and you can do it, but they always end up just slightly off. So figured give this a shot. Anyways, better than the way that I was doing it, putting the coupler there at the back and then like holding it there, and then you drill halfway through and then flip it and drill the other halfway through. I'll be honest with you, it's a good thing that we use 1/4 inch bolts on the pullers, because I don't think a roll pin would stay. Probably use a roll pin on this one. I don't know that. We'll see how it'll go in there, but I need to chamfer the holes. I just put a just slightly undersized 1/4 inch hole in there. I had the perfect drill bit, but I broke it. So let me chamfer this hole, and then we'll start putting this clutch assembly together, and I'll kind of show you how I do that. Well, there's our new drive shaft. I'll be honest, it's probably not perfect, but if you can see the you know, imperfections in it, point them out, because I don't see any. I use the lathe. Wow, the camera does not want to focus. I use the lathe and straighten the end, and then put a little chamfer on the bevel edge there, and chamfered the holes. And those are the holes that Kerber sends you. There's what does he call them, a wide and a narrow, and it's not for wide and narrow frame tractors. If you go to run one of his clutches, the 3 pucks, which are awesome pulling clutches, like, don't even buy from anywhere else, and he doesn't sponsor this video, but if he did, I could use some parts. But his 3 puck clutches, this hole is back further because the plate itself is thicker. But obviously I'm not running a, you know, $400 clutch in a freaking yard tractor. So yeah, those holes are already there. I drilled this one, so now I got to start putting some roll pins in, and we can get it in the press and get the spring compressed and get the locking collars and everything on. And let me get that set up and show you how we do that. So here it is in the clutch press. I had to go look at another one to make sure I got it together right, but your roll pin goes in here, and then your teaser spring, your throwout bearing, and his throwout bearing is different. He has it so it doesn't tear into the shaft. He's got a nice machined steel piece here. So hopefully it'll be the last time that this drive shaft gets tore into. But so there's that there. That's why you can't run the pin back here if you use his throwout bearing. And he said right in the directions to compress this spring to 4.5 to 4 3/4 inches. So I'm just a little over 4.5, which will be fine. I mean, my kids are gonna drive it, and it's a stock 10 horse. I mean, we're gonna use it in the garden and whatnot, but I think it'll be fine. This is a little bit heavier, a little bit better spring than stock. So got your 2 locking collars on there. Let me tighten this one down, and then I want to give this one a, you know, 9-0 or 180. Face it the other way. I don't think it matters, but maybe for the balancification of it all. So I can't do this with one hand, so I will do it off camera and then show you what we ended up with. Well, that's what we're left with. We're right at 4 5/8, so we're right between 4.5 and 4 3/4. I don't know what that is, the exchange rate to the communist measurements. You'd have to figure that out. So there's that. I need to put the axle coupler on the end, and then we'll set it back in there. And then I use the clutch itself on the tractor and lock it down, and that takes the pressure off the flywheel. I mean, I'm a moron, because I could probably use my press, you know, if I so desired, but you know, why would you do anything the smart way? So lock that in. Then your clutch disc goes on, and then your outer or your front, or I guess maybe even the inner pressure plate, whatever you want to call it, goes on there. And then that gets locked down, and we have a rebuilt, no slippy. Well, there you can see our fancy new clutch in there. We got the trued up plates. I used the best driver that I had, and you see our fancy blue spring and our fancy new throwout bearing in there. And I mean, I understand that this is a 650-pound spring instead of like the 1200s and the 1000s or whatever the hell they are, the reds and the yellows. But this is probably the nicest pushing clutch that I have. My pin back there for the pin that goes into this guy fell out, but it doesn't use this one didn't have a roll pin in it. It had like a 1/4 inch, just like a hardened 1/4 inch pin with a little cotter pin in it, which, I mean, it was in there and it worked. Must have been working for a long time. In the pullers, we use 1/4 inch bolts, which it's easier than these roll pins. But yeah, it's in there. I'm sure we'll have to adjust it. It feels pretty good. You know, you get it down to about right in there, and it's fully released, but we might probably have to put a little more tension on it in the process of redoing the carburetor. And I'm gonna adjust the valves. I got a new set of points and new condenser coming for it. This wire, it'll probably be okay for a while, but yeah, we're just gonna continue on getting it fixed up to use. But anyways, then before I end this here, there's a clutch cover that goes over all of that, which you probably should put back on. And then this one had those little anti-rattle clips, and you know, it's survived since 1960 whatever with them on there, and then some dumb redneck forgets to put them on, and I already have the motor bolted down, so I'm not gonna put them back on. But anyways, that's the clutch replacement on a Cub Cadet 102. Thanks for watching.